Hey. All right, we are live.
What's up, man?
Not too much. We got lots to talk about.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely a big day for Team Xbox today, wasn't it?
oh yeah, and yesterday, and the news just kept dropping all day today, and just getting better and better. Uh, I've been telling people to stop freaking out, all because Halo got friggin' delayed. Like, get over it. I was never buying the Xbox 4 Halo. I was buying the Series X because it was the best console, and it was going to play everything else the best.
Yeah, dude, I definitely agree, man. I mean, I am a little bit sad about Halo, obviously. That's kind of my game, but it'll come out eventually and it'll be awesome whenever we do get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the meantime, though, you're right. Playing every game I have on Xbox, almost no loading times, 4K, 60 frames per second. I'm ready for that, man. I'm ready.
All those back and pack games. I like 800 games on my Xbox One X. Every one of those are going to be on my Series X, and they'll play better, look better.
Yep.
And that's, a ton of them won't even have enhancements, but they'll still look a little better and play a little better.
Absolutely. Yeah, those load times are going to really be killer, man. I was just playing Forza Horizon 4 and thinking about how much better it's going to be not sitting through that 2 minute long loading screen when you first boot it up.
Hey, I'm hearing some feedback. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know
Um,
if I'm picking up your mic or if I've got my mic on my laptop maybe on. I'm going to shut off my snowball mic
okay.
and see if the laptop mic is doing it. Although I don't show it on when I hit camera mic. I mean hit audio. No, there's only one mic on.
Are you hearing it just when I talk or just when you talk or both?
No, when I talk, I hear a little bit of screeching,
Okay.
but I don't hear it constantly. Like I'm not hearing it
I
now.
everything feel here sounds perfect on my end, man. Especially your audio sounds great.
Okay, I don't know. That was weird, but it stopped doing it now. As soon as I said that, I didn't unhook my snowball because I like using it.
Yeah, I have some other kind of Yeti mic. It's not the Snowball, it's the more like traditional looking mic, but I didn't have a chance to get that set up today. I'm just using the Logitech headset, but it seems like it's working all right.
Yeah, you sound fine. But I don't even know where to start at. My goodness. Let's start with all these games that are going to be 4K 60 when people were like thinking they wasn't going to be, and some early games were already hinting that only going to be, you know, 1440p or 4K 30, on that PlayStation.
Well, I think Ubisoft even said themselves that they were only guaranteeing, 30 FPS even on the Xbox side. I guess they were just being overly cautious until today.
Yeah, and I think a lot of games will end up 4K. Well, I think we won't know unless somebody like Digital Foundry really tells us. But I think a lot of games, Sony's going to claim 4K 60, but they may not be 4K. They may only be 1440 or 1800p or whatever. And Sony just lies. I mean, they claim 4K on a crap ton of PS4 games or PS4 Pro games that aren't really 4K. But I don't think it matters because everything upscales so great, and they got those various techniques to get stuff to 4K.
Yeah, I mean everything. Even the TVs now are doing their own little tricks too to make things look a little bit better. Some of the newer TVs, it's going to look great across the board, I think. But I mean, it's nice to know heading into this generation that Xbox is the more powerful console this time. Because I think we had to kind of swallow our pride a little bit when the Xbox One first came out.
And I didn't even mind.
I
I
didn't
was
really either.
I
I
had
mean,
it on a hooked up to at first a 1080p set, but not soon after that I had it hooked to 4K. I had a PS4, and I couldn't tell the difference in most games. I really couldn't. At that time, my TV upscaled them both to 4K, and games looked almost identical, and to me, played identical. So I didn't understand all the negative crap that was out there about, oh, the PS4 is 1080p and the Xbox was only 720p or 900. I was like, I could not tell the difference in most games.
And you can't. I mean, that's why Digital Foundry exists, so they can, experts can break it down for us, so that then we can scream at each other about it. But you're right, though. Kind of for the most part, it's the graphical fidelity of the games has a lot more to do with anything than 1080p versus 4K does. Of course, it looks better, but when you have to look at frame by frame comparisons to see it, though, it kind of lets you know that we probably hype it up a little bit more than what it needs to be.
Yeah, but with that S only being $300, and yet it's going to give you 1440p that'll get upscaled to 4K, and it's going to hit 60 and even occasionally 120.
Yeah, the fact that they got Gears 5 hitting 120 on that guy already, I mean, wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
that little thing's a beast, and people cried about the grill. That's the only real valid complaint I've heard, and I'm like, I think
Yeah.
that's great. I don't think they understand how small that console is. That grill is no bigger than a controller. You set that controller on top of the grill, and it's going to cover it.
Well, did you see? They showed like kind of it inside of the Series X. You could see from that picture that it's tiny. It's a little guy.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, they show a controller leaning up against it right below the grill, and it's as big as the grill. So that thing is tiny, and if you lay it flat, and it's going to be under your TV and stuff. But I actually like the look of that. I do agree. In those renders or pictures online, it does look like a subwoofer. I used to have a Cambridge Soundworks sub that looked just like that. Except it was, three times as big, but it was.
I thought it looked exactly like the Xbox adaptive controller when I first saw it.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought of. The people that designed those two things, there must have been some overlap somehow.
Oh,
the design teams.
Surface Pros and the Xbox One X, One S, Series S, Series X, all that's been by that same design group, and they've been hitting on all cylinders.
They have. You said that was your only complaint. I think my probably only complaint about the Series S is just the hard drive size. It being an all digital console, that 500 gigs is going to get eaten up pretty quick. So that'd be probably my only hesitation about that one.
That wasn't a problem for me for the grill, but that's one of the complaints I heard. But I don't think that hard drive size is going to be as big a deal as people think, because it ain't going to have no 4K assets. It's going to know what version of the game to download. So you're getting the same size files that you're getting now on the One X. And I think it's going to be fine with all those different smart technologies he's got to upload and download games. You're just going to have to delete some games and then load them, but I don't see any problem, because that stuff's going to be fast. It's not like downloading a game that you're initially purchasing it from the internet. It might take a little bit longer. You already have the game.
Well, yeah,
you've already got it digitally, so you're just moving it to your from wherever Xbox keeps it. You won't even be keeping it. So I'm saying it'll be like Game Pass games. Those load really fast. If they're already in Game Pass and you want to put one, download it to your hard drive, that doesn't take 5 hours like downloading something straight from the disc or purchasing it and doing it that way. So I don't think there'll be any issues with it. And I don't believe that $220 price for that little
yeah, I hope that turns out to not be true.
I never thought it was going to be just like $100. I always thought it was going to be about $149 for that, which is still kind of pricey, but that's what I was thinking it was going to come in at for the 1 terabyte SSD.
Like I was saying on Twitter, I was trying to kind of keep my source confidential or whatever, but I might as well just come out and say it. I got a friend that works at GameStop, and that picture is 100% legit, like from GameStop's point of sale system, but it could be a placeholder price, like some people have kind of pointed out. It may not necessarily be that price, but it's not like a photoshopped pic or anything. So there's about a 50-50 chance that is going to be the right price, and it wouldn't surprise me either way, honestly. The good thing is though that I hope everybody understands this is that our regular HDD hard drives that we have now are still going to be compatible somewhat
Oh yeah,
Series X/Series S.
yeah. You
So,
just move the game over.
yeah, and that's super fast speeds when you're just using your USB ports to move them from one hard drive to the other. And how many people are playing more than 1 terabyte of games in any given day? That number is super small, so it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave most of the stuff on my current hard drives, and just one or two special games I'll move to the 1 terabyte Series X, and at some point, depending on, maybe later than sooner, I'll get that 1 terabyte extension thing. But at 220, I might wait a little bit. That's kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
that,
that's
to me,
pricey.
that's stupid price. But Xbox will look, well, we're not the ones making it, so yeah, I think they'll wash their hands of it.
Yep, definitely. And I mean, it's new technology too, and people were paying. I think if it wasn't $150 or $200 for the 256 gigabyte Xbox 360 hard drives when those first came out, it was the same kind of deal. You know, it was a proprietary hard drive, and you didn't necessarily have to have it, but if you wanted it and you wanted that convenience to have 200 games on your console, then you paid a premium for it, and that's just kind of how new technology works.
Yeah.
If you're an early adopter, you're always going to pay a little bit more than somebody that's willing to wait. And that's the great thing about what Xbox is doing right now too. You got probably 6 months to a year where you can keep playing all these new games on your Xbox One if you want to, or you go the Xbox All Access route and pay your $35 a month, and you're out the door relatively, without hitting your wallet too hard anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a good deal.
They're giving us all kinds of options, man. It's great. I was saying today, like I wish something like this existed when I was a kid. I was pretty strapped for cash. My family was when I was a kid, and this would have been great. Having Game Pass. I mean, I barely got maybe 1 or 2 games a year for my Super Nintendo when I was a kid. Imagine if I could have got 100 games for $15 a month or whatever. That would have been awesome. I could have made that much money mowing yards for the neighbors.
Yeah, I was already an adult when those systems come out like that. But even then, I was brand new in the Air Force, and it was tough buying those games.
Yeah, man, it was. I mean, like I said, I got like a game for Christmas and a game for my birthday, and that was pretty much it. I could have, a kid nowadays, like if my daughter, I have an 11-year-old daughter, she wants to ask for a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for her birthday. All right, cool. Here's a year, and you play every game that comes out for Xbox for the next year, and you don't got to bother me about it. Every month when something new comes out.
All right, I'm gonna try to share this out. We are live on YouTube right now. I'm looking at it. I got it on my phone.
Okay.
So, I suck at this stuff.
Hey, man, I'm right there with you. This is day one for me.
I've done this a bunch of times though, and it's like,
Yeah, this is
okay, I had to start it to get to that where I can do it. And then I just hit pause so that way we don't hear it and screw stuff up. But now I can hit share. So yeah, I'm tweeting it out now.
okay. Yeah, as soon as I see it, I will send it on its way. So what else, man? What else is going on today? So we got a release date. We got a pre-order date, September 22nd for anyone
Yeah,
that didn't see that yet.
I gotta check at my local GameStop to see if they're going to do the pre-orders the night before, or they're going to force us to wait till the next day, which is I think what mine will do. That's what they did with the series or the One X. Basically, well, they announced that in the afternoon.
Yeah, I got my
So I
One
did
X
the
from Best
pre-order.
Buy. And I got it.
Yeah,
I
I
did like
jumped
a
in my
midnight
car
launch there.
immediately because I was watching the show or whatever the announcement. Drove there, so the pre-order wasn't that big a deal. But when I picked it up, they didn't do a midnight thing, so I couldn't get it till the next day.
I really want to get it from GameStop because I have like $600 in trade credit, so I can get it free, more or less, no tax, especially. But I mean, do I want to wait? I mean, I know it's kind of a silly thing to say, but I'm one of those guys, man. I want it day one. I want to be one of the first guys on it. So I don't know if I want to wait till the next day when they open at noon.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I get mine pre-ordered. And
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I want to make sure I have one because it wasn't hard to find these consoles last gen on launch day, but the world's not the same as it was 7 years ago.
yeah, I don't think it'll be. I don't think it's going to be a problem for the Xbox. I think they've produced enough. I think it's the PlayStation we got to worry about to get that PS5. They've been hinting Sony themselves at not having enough stock at launch.
They've definitely been saying some things that haven't been instilling a lot of confidence. That's for sure. But maybe again, it's just a thing of being overly cautious. They always say to under promise and over deliver. So maybe that's kind of the route they're going. Either way, when I get that pre-order locked in, I'm going to feel a lot better than what I do right now.
Yeah. I'm just going to go throw $100-$200 down to make sure I have it held, and then or I might just pay it all off right then and there. I don't know. But I might try that all access thing, but I don't know.
I've been
I
kind
think
of
I want to
working
be
this
making
system.
payments. I don't like making payments.
Yeah, it makes it.
I'm
It
old
seems like
enough
it's a
for
cell
age.
phone then. But the cool thing, if you do go the all access route, is that there's no interest or anything. It's not like a bank loan where they're going to tack another $100 on the end. It's just straight
Yeah,
up.
it's a great deal, and not only that, it would help with paying for the PS5. But to be honest, I've been putting money back for 2 years now for both consoles, so I'm prepared.
So what I've been doing is I'm sure like I collect Xbox 360 games a lot. I have like 600 games. So I buy these lots of games off of Craigslist and OfferUp or whatever, and I keep getting ones that I have duplicates of. And I told you I got a buddy that works at GameStop, so he kind of gave me like a little list of which 360 games they're paying decent amount of trade-in value for. And surprisingly, there's some like an example, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, GameStop gives you $18 trade credit for that game.
Oh,
And
cool.
I can pick that game up for like $2, like all day pretty much where I live. So every time I find a copy of that game, I take it into GameStop and trade it in, and they got 16 more, 18 more dollars, whatever on my card, and I'm almost up to $600 now.
Nice.
And then they don't charge you any tax if you use trade credit, so that's going to save me like $50 on the price of the console too.
Yeah, I think I only have about 40 or 50 original 360 games. Everything else I've bought digitally. And I had about the same amount of PS3 games, probably about 40 or 50. So I had about 100 for the two systems.
When the 360 was actually the console that was out, I probably never had more than maybe 4 or 5 games at any given time. I was one of those guys that traded in stuff when I was done with it or sold it on eBay or whatever. And I didn't become a collector until about 4 years ago. And it's a great time to collect Xbox 360 right now, though. The prices are starting to creep up on some things, but it's not really retro yet, so it's still relatively cheap, compared to trying to buy like old Nintendo stuff or whatever. So it's kind of fun right now.
Well, I had both consoles fairly early, and so I had a day one PS3 edition, the fat one that plays everything. But I just didn't buy a lot of games for them, and I wasn't renting them. But of course, a lot of that time I was living in Korea, and then so yeah, that made it a little more difficult. And to be honest, I had a modded OG Xbox. And I was playing more games on it than I was the 360 or the PS3 because I had basically everything. And yeah, and I have a modded 360, which is kind of nice. And it's got one of those switches where you're not online, so Xbox can't destroy the console. Which I don't think they do that anymore anyway. But
Yeah,
I just
I
got
don't
it
know.
to
I
play
probably
Japanese.
wouldn't.
I only got it modded because I wanted to play Japanese games, and then it was like, oh, it plays burn games. Well, I bought like one game that was burned, and I never burned any myself because, man, downloading 360 games it's a pain in the ass. and you got to look back. This was like 5-6 years ago when I was doing this, and 10 years ago, and yeah, internet speeds and everything back then was much worse, and I just didn't care about it.
Did you ever find any cool like Asian market exclusive Xbox stuff while you were over there?
Not a lot. During that time, everything was pretty much the OG Xbox was pirated, so Korean stores had anywhere there was a U.S. military base, they'd be like places where you could buy pirated games and movies, and but yeah, they didn't. Koreans themselves didn't wasn't buying a whole lot of Xboxes.
Right.
Uh,
Did it kind of have the same market or video game stuff that come out in Japan, or did Korea have like kind of its own market?
I think it was more its own market, but I don't know for sure because I just seen the stuff that was there for the U.S. for the military. Um, but yeah, and I was more into the pirated movies than I was the games, to be honest.
Yeah, I bought quite a few bootleg movies when I was overseas myself.
But now after I got back to the States, then they started those EverDrives, and that's where I really got into. You know what? I don't want to collect games. That's crazy. The used game market is insane. Uh, but if you got an EverDrive, you can have every game for that particular system, and it's so cool.
Yeah, the EverDrives are awesome. I don't have one myself, but my buddy has one, and for the Super Nintendo, and he had some games that people had patched to have actual like stereo music in them.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember the game Rock and Roll Racing on the Super
yeah,
Nintendo? He
oh yeah,
has a version of that game that has the actual full songs with the lyrics and everything in it. It's really awesome.
yeah. They there's tons of modded games like that, and I've got it for the Super Nintendo and the NES, Master System, Genesis. Uh, I got one for a Game Boy Advance. Uh, I got an N64. Uh, I've got a PS1 set up to accept a hard drive, but I've got the hard drive for it, but I've never filled it with games because, again, but I just didn't feel the need to do that. I've had a modded PS1 and some burn games for it, but those 3D games didn't translate very well, and most of the 2D games I liked were already available on the Saturn, and I had those burned. And yeah,
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, man. Like I really like playing NES and Super Nintendo games because I the pixel art still looks great, but the PS1, PS2, N64, I mean, some of those
oh
games are still fun, but they just you could tell it was the
yeah,
infancy of 3D, man, because it just does not look good.
no, particularly the PS1 and N64. But the PS2 they started getting better, but yeah, it took to the Xbox 360 and PS2 and the OG. Well, the OG Xbox had yeah, it was all right.
You know, to kind of get back on topic here, it's kind of funny how it's come full circle. How, you know, like Nintendo and Super Nintendo, we didn't have any load times on the cartridges, and then it just got worse and worse. You know, the PS1 and PS2, and, you know, even the Xbox 360, the load times just were getting atrocious, and now it's come back around with these SSDs that maybe we're going to get back to, you know, just pushing the button and playing the game again.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Although I never minded the load times, and I had a yeah the
I still
Sega
remember playing
CD
Resident
and
Evil on the PS1 and just, oh my God, you know, if you went to a new area and then if you wanted to go back in the next room before that, then you just, you know, you might have 5 minutes of load time going
oh yeah,
back and forth
just booting
twice.
the games up's what I was talking about. My God,
Oh,
sometimes
okay.
it take seven
Yeah,
eight
that too.
minutes, but again, I just yeah, I even
That's
got
got to be probably the thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is this new hard drive thing. It's just going to be amazing. I hope it comes to fruition as, you know, how they're selling it. Hopefully it's not like a smoke and mirrors type thing, but I've seen the videos though, and it looks pretty good.
well, I think by the 2 year point, you're going to get models that's going to have 2 or 4 terabyte drives in them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
And
they'll increase in size as the generation goes by, I'm sure. And even if that card is $220, that price it'll come down too as they produce more of them. And it'd be great if we get a second company in there in the mix making them.
yeah, I think that's the problem is just one company do it, and I think but they don't get to do it forever. I think that's a limited time they're doing that exclusively.
Seagate, kind of has like mixed feelings in the gaming community too, as far as their reliability goes. So that's another slight concern, I guess. But I've had a Seagate hard drive for the last 4 years, and it still works fine. So it's not been an issue on my end.
Yeah, I've got a Seagate, a couple of them. So
To be
a couple
honest, when I
other
go out looking at
Western
hard drives, I
Digital.
feel like that's the only thing I see is Seagate.
I got a Nintendo Wii with a hard drive, and I think it's 4 terabyte Western Digital. It's got every Wii game that ever came out and every GameCube that ever came out on it. It's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. There's a lot of Wii games.
Yeah, and there's even a SD card reader inside of it, so it come already installed with an SD card with all those downloadable games that you couldn't get any other way. So there are, for whatever reason, instead of just putting them on the damn hard drive, they put them on an SD card that goes inside of it.
That's
It's
interesting.
pretty cool. Yeah. So I have to go into the Wii menu, and then you have to pretend like you're downloading it, and then it just plays it off that SD card. And I don't know, maybe I don't know how many was ever released like that, but they're all on there.
So let me ask you this, man. When do you think Xbox is going to jump into VR?
I hope by the mid-generation, because I don't know that they're going to upgrade the Series X. I don't think they will. I think they're looking at one console the entire gen. So maybe their upgrade will be with, hey, here's a VR system that works with it. That's what I'm hoping.
The way I understand it, they should.
Sony's going to be about a year to year and a half before they release their new VR.
Yeah. I figured that at some point, all they got to do is put out a firmware patch, right? And then we can use the Oculus Rift like right on the Xbox. I'm not sure they have to make their own.
Yeah.
Proprietary
I don't know how they'll
headset.
do it. They may do that. They've got plenty of different options.
I think that'd be the best route for them to go. Why reinvent the wheel, right? Everybody loves Oculus that's used it. And it's, the Series X is so close to a PC, it should work.
Xbox should have used their own damn camera, and with the One X should have had VR, because that thing would have been amazing to control VR games, and it already sees everything in your room, and it would have been totally amazing.
I don't know where the train went off the tracks or whatever, but I'm sure you remember when they announced the One X, it said it was going to have VR, and then it just.
Well, then they realized Sony hadn't sold crap for their VR, so they.
The attach rate's been pretty abysmal for it.
Policy shift or whatever. They just said, you know what? No, let's not do this because Sony's not making any money at it. Why do we want to? Yeah, let's not. And they made the right decision. I get it, but it still pisses me off. I wanted VR for the One X. It would have been great.
I think it would definitely be cool. Yeah, I'm not going to go out and spend $3,000 on a PC just to play VR, but if it was on something I already had, I would check it out for sure.
They already had the camera and microphone for it. Everything would have been awesome. And instead of trying to make games for the camera, it would have just been part of the VR system. It would have been amazing because that camera and that thing is incredible.
Are you talking about the Kinect?
Yeah, Kinect camera is just flat out killer.
Yeah, have you ever done like a Skype call on it?
All the time. I call my son in Germany all the time. It's crystal clear.
To be honest, like I look at the picture of myself on the Kinect Skype thing, and it's like, wow, this looks better than real life does.
Yeah.
You look around and you're like, how come my room doesn't look as nice as it does on this camera?
And that Sony camera for the Sony PR is a piece of crap. It looks horrible.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I've got Sony's VR. I've got the PSVR, and I actually do like it, but the camera is dog shit. And it, when you're watching playing VR games or trying to watch a movie in VR or whatever. It's like looking through a fucking screen door. Uh, yeah, it's just not. It wasn't the quality. Of course, they were trying to keep the price down, but Microsoft
Right.
could have kept the price down. They already had the friggin' Connect. All they had to do, but again, I get it. They seen what happened with Sony, and they didn't want to promote the Connect because it had such negative stuff about it. It just, I got why they didn't do it.
That's too bad too, man, because I love the Connect. When I was in college, we used to play Connect Sports in my apartment, and God, I can't remember a time having that much fun playing a video game, honestly. We got the cops called on us one day. They said we were having some kind of wild party upstairs. I lived on a second story apartment, and the cop came and knocked on the door, and I was like, if you want to come in and see what we were doing, feel free, but there's four of us up here being nerds. That's about it. There's no wild party going on. We're just trying to do the 100-meter dash as fast as we can. And the cop got a pretty big kick out of that, and he's like, yeah, they said that there was like 100 people up here, and I was like, well, I don't know where I'm hiding them if there is. I promise you, it's just the four of us up here being idiots.
Yeah, I never really cared for any of the Connect games, but I just wanted it to be for VR, and I felt that they got to fail for that. But I think by the middle of this generation, that's going to be their upgrade is some kind of VR. I hope so anyway.
I think you might be right. Just, there was towards the end of the 360 PS3 generation, they were putting 3D into a bunch of games, and then people just kind of wrote it off and it didn't go anywhere. So that could happen with VR too, potentially, I guess. I mean, I guess we'll see.
Hey, the ginger cunt from Terminator 2 wants to know who has the southern accent, and that would be me. Although
That's
I've
funny.
lived in places where my accent went away. Like I said, I was 24 plus years in the Air Force. But the last 13, 14 years, I've been back here in East Tennessee. So, yeah, that accent comes back. I didn't care.
Yeah, I asked him the same thing when I first got on here. I was like, where are you from, man? That's definitely a southern accent.
How
Oh man,
weird.
so what
I
else is
had
going
this.
on, man? What else is going on in the Xbox world today?
Well, the big thing is with EA access. That's 60 more games in Game Pass on top
Yeah,
of the 150 to 200. I know they say 100, but let's be honest, there's always 150 to 200 in there. So now we're going to
there's
be looking at 260 plus games.
I
It's
think last I looked,
amazing.
there was 246 games in Game Pass, and I have always thought they kind of sell themselves short when they say over 100 games. They should be saying over 200 at this point. But
Yeah, you'd think, but I think they don't want to do that because who knows, that maybe they've always feared if it doesn't go the way they want it to go, they might have to scale back. But it's
right,
been the exact opposite. It's been going so good. They just added and added, and it's going to keep getting better.
it kind of cracks me up when people act like this is some kind of brand new strategy or whatever. It's Netflix all over again.
Oh
All the
yeah.
same people that laughed at Netflix are laughing at Game Pass now, and it's like, really? I mean, did you were you not alive 5 years ago? This isn't something new. It's just in a new
No,
medium.
Sony's trying it now. With
Yeah.
PS now, it's just not as good until they suck it up and put all games in there and go day and day. They're never going to get the amount of people that Xbox has. And if they wait too long, they're going to be shit out of luck because once you get a big enough subscriber base, people aren't going to want to go do both.
Yep. Hey, ask
Oh,
Blockbuster,
they'll
man.
lose out.
Ask Blockbuster about that. They tried to jump on the bandwagon with, Netflix after it was too late, and you've seen where they're at now. They got
Oh,
one
yeah.
store left in the world. I don't want to see Sony go under, though.
No, that,
yeah, I'm an Xbox fanboy. I think anybody that follows me knows that. But at the same time, all I played growing up was PS1, PS2 in that era, and I love their franchise. I love a lot of their games. I was
yeah, I
sad when
like the games.
Sega.
I don't care for Sony as a company. I think they do a lot of dirty tactics type stuff. But I mean, that's business, so whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if I didn't buy anything from places I didn't agree with morally. I wouldn't have anything.
I had a friend whose wife worked for Square Enix, and he used to tell me stuff that was. Listen, all them devs, anywhere there's a big dev that makes games for Sony or small devs, whatever bars they come in that area, there are Sony PR people and reps there, and they make veiled threats. Yeah, if you put your games on other people's systems, we might not put you on the, all the way back PS1, PS2. But they don't outright threaten it, so they don't ever get busted for it. But yeah, they do some dirty crap.
That's where you really see a difference in strategy. I mean, imagine if Microsoft had made Minecraft exclusive to Xbox and PC. I mean, that they could have sold 50 million Xboxes off that alone, but just not the strategy they wanted to go with, though. And
No, they
like you
make
said,
more
it's
money selling the
business.
game. So
Yeah, exactly. They didn't do it to be nice people. And I'm not saying that the CEO of Microsoft's any nicer than the CEO of Sony. It's just a different route, and obviously it's working for them. I mean, Minecraft's one of the biggest gaming franchises in history.
And games like Fortnite, they would prefer you playing Fortnite. They earn more money off those microtransactions than they
Oh
do off
yeah.
straight up sales of a single player game. They just do.
Yep.
People want to complain about the multiplayer and games as a service stuff, but they know the numbers. They know everybody that's playing, and they know how much money they're getting, how much Epic gets, and it's that's and same thing for Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah,
That's
it's still
the golden
that's
egg
still one of
that
the highest
everybody wants.
grossing games every month. 7 years later.
Yeah, and it's not even the game sales that's that big a deal. It's the in-game transactions that makes all the money.
Yeah.
That's where the
And
real money's at.
here's the thing too with the microtransactions and everything. So there's some companies that have kind of made some of these games pay to win, and that's pretty shady. But the most part, though, it hasn't been the case. It's been cosmetic items, stuff you don't really need, like Fortnite. None of that stuff makes you any better of a player. And that stuff, I mean, it's kind of necessary. Look how much games cost today. They cost $60 or less. You remember when we were younger, when like a Nintendo 64 game was $70 or $80,
Oh yeah.
and the development budget for those games was a fraction of what it is now. So how does that math work out? That money's got to come from somewhere. We could get rid of all paid DLC, all microtransactions, all of that, and then what would we be doing? Paying $100 a game when they come out? I don't want to do that.
No.
And I don't invest money into microtransactions hardly ever. And other people do. And the way I see that, they're paying for my game for me almost.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's, to me, that's great,
I don't
man.
mind it at all. But certain games, as much as I don't like some of the things Sony does, I love the fact that and I don't think God of War was that great of a game, but it was really good. But I just was really happy about no microtransactions, no DLC. It was pure. Just they released the game, and yeah,
There's
that
definitely
was
something
great.
to be said for that. Yeah, just to have, just an experience. But we got to look at the value of it too, though. Like, how can you compare a game that you play once for 20 hours to a game that you play for 5 years? Something like Halo 5 that I'm still playing. I paid the same amount of money for that game that somebody paid for God of War,
Oh
and
yeah,
I've gotten hundreds of hours out of it.
the Sony fanboys don't seem to get that and Microsoft's not going to change. They're going to maintain their multiplayer as their number one focus.
Yeah.
They're not going to, they'll do the occasional single player game, but they're never going to be their main focus. And their studios are going to lean towards multiplayer because that's where the longevity and the more money is.
Yeah, and it's not like Microsoft's completely abandoned, single player games either. Halo's going to have a campaign in it.
Oh
Gears
yeah.
has a campaign in it. They bought those guys that made Outer Worlds. That's pretty much just straight up narrative driven game right there. Yeah, I mean it's there too. It's like you said, it's not their focus, but they haven't completely abandoned it either. It's a good mix. and then all that money generated from these games as a service can go right back into funding these single player games. So it all kind of works together.
Oh yeah, I hope they get a couple more studios though. I think they need a few more games to keep
Yeah, I
Game
mean,
Pass.
more the merrier for sure.
Yeah,
I think they're going to announce. I don't, the whole thing about them buying Sega doesn't seem like it's going to come to fruition, but I think
I
they could
know.
announce that Sega games are going to be day one on Game Pass, though.
Yeah, I'd like some kind of deal like that, particularly as long as it's not just Sega owned titles. That it's like some of the other devs under Sega, like Altus. I want
Yeah.
all their games too, and Sega actually has 7 or 8 people under them, and yeah,
Yep. That might be the big news Xbox has for Tokyo Game Show. They said they're not announcing any like ununveiled games or
kids.
whatever, so it's got to
Yeah.
be something.
Yeah, they could easily announce a deal with Sega or somebody over there. So
I doubt they're taking the whole entourage over there to Tokyo for no reason at all. There's got to be something coming out of it.
well, they might just be doing it for Game Pass and the XCloud stuff because they're
XCloud's going to be
really
huge in the Asian market. There's no
yeah.
doubt about that.
Well, it already is in Korea, so but Korea is always ahead of everybody else in Asia as far as anything cell phone related. The first Motorola cell phones that blew up were when they couldn't get their own product sold in America. They took it to Korea and started selling cell phones, and yeah, it took about 5 more years before they started selling crap in the U.S. and other places. Korea's always just been like a step ahead on stuff like that, and they're going to be all over this.
Oh yeah, I agree, man. There's good quality tech that comes out of Korea for sure, and so they embrace foreign stuff really well too, compared to like say Japan.
Well, LG and Samsung are both Korean, and they just crush Sony now.
Yeah, God, it
TVs
broke
and
my
other
heart to
stuff.
buy a TV that wasn't a Samsung this time, but I had to though. I've had nothing but Samsungs for years, but I had to grab the LG this time.
Yeah, I got a Samsung curved 55-inch 4K, but in my living room I've got a 70-inch Vizio, just a 1080p set. But it's yeah.
That's good for football games and stuff.
Oh, it's good for Blu-ray movies that aren't 4K. I don't like stuff getting upscaled. I like watching it native resolution. So, although 4K sets do real good going from 1080p to 4K, real good job with movies. But anything below that, like DVDs, they don't upscale all the way to 4K very well. So, and I have thousands of DVDs. I have a massive movie collection, and so, and I've not double dipped on a lot of those unless it was like a really special edition of a movie, or I just had a bootleg or it was just a bad transfer of the DVD. Then there are some things I bought Blu-ray, but the majority I just kept. If I had a good DVD, I kept it, and so I still watch those on that big set in the living room. And
I got a lady coming here when I get done with this, going to come buy my home theater receiver off of me. So I got to upgrade that. Apparently, it doesn't have HDMI 2.1 ports on it. So I'm trying to make sure I have all my ducks in a row before this console comes out. So that's the last thing I should have to upgrade for a while, hopefully.
yeah, I don't think my receiver has 2.1, but I don't run. I run the actual OG Xbox One through that 1080p TV and my good home theater receiver. With the 55-inch curved Sammy, I've just got a sound bar. Because I got a
The
cool
sound
gaming
bars have come a
hub.
long way. They sound great now. I
Yeah,
can't
I
believe some of the virtual surround sound technology.
had no problem with the sound bar. It does great.
I went kind of crazy when I moved into my house a couple of years ago, though. I did the whole speakers in the ceiling and speakers behind me and speakers off to the side of me. I think it's almost kind of overkill for the small space I have it in.
Yeah, I don't have in the ceiling, but I've got the whole 7.1 set up with 2 back surrounds and 2 side surrounds, and I got some pretty high end speakers. And yeah,
It's going to be nice, man. That's something that doesn't get talked about really enough is how much like audio can affect the game. It's just as much as, having a better resolution, having better audio is
well,
really
most
helps with the
games I
immersion
prefer to
too.
play with headphones on than through my surround sound setup. So I never cared about having my 1X just goes through that sound bar. But if it's a particular game that I really want, you know, like Dolby Atmos and all that, I use the headphones.
Somebody opened my eyes to how great headphones are when I started playing Hellblade. Wow, that was amazing. That was the first time I really used headphones really to play a game other than just, for chatting, like online voice chat or whatever. And it having the headphones on for that game did make a huge difference. I really felt like I heard the voices inside my head, like, how they kind of
Oh yeah.
supposed to simulate like schizophrenia or whatever in that game. That was really cool. I'm excited about the sequel to that too. I think that's a franchise that might pull some of those PlayStation guys over to Xbox. You get that kind of PlayStation feel when you play Hellblade.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good studio. So I think
Yeah.
anything they make will be fine. They've got a bunch of good studios now. I just think they need about 2 or 3 more to round everything out.
Yeah, like I said, man, the more the merrier. I mean, I don't know if at some point you can stretch yourself too thin, but we're not there yet, though. I would definitely like to see them keep adding.
Yeah, I think they already have. They've just not announced it yet. I think Sobo's already been bought by them.
I could definitely see that. I guess they were supposed to have a big event this month, and they were going to show off the Series S before that leak happened. So I wonder if that event's going to get canceled or if they're just going to have like something new to be the headliner for it. Because it's hard to imagine they got too many more bombshells to drop right now, but maybe they do. Maybe they'll surprise me yet again.
Well, I think they'll be showing games from here on out. It'll be about the games.
I hope so. The games, man. Without the games, the console's nothing, right?
People act like there's not any games for the Series X or S, but they actually have more games coming than the PS5 does. So it's like, well, shut the fuck up.
Do people not remember 2013 anyway? I mean, for the PS4 and the Xbox One both, I mean, there was nothing.
Yeah,
I remember
most launches, there's not a lot of good games because there's not enough consoles sold yet.
I remember launch day picking up my Xbox One, and all I got was FIFA and Call of Duty Ghosts, which were 2 games I already had on the 360. I just bought them again. Then I ended up seeing a video for Rise and went back and got that a couple of days later. But I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot. There was Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That was another port. I think the only other real big like Xbox One exclusive game around launch was Dead Rising.
Yeah, I had both Dead Rising and Rise and Forza.
But yeah, it was pretty much a lot of last gen ports.
Yeah.
So this isn't anything new. I mean, Mario 64 held me over for 2 years on the N64. There really wasn't anything when that console came out. And it's this is not new. If anything, it's better this generation than it has been previously.
Yeah, Sony's got that Ratchet and Clank, but I don't care about that. That's like the 15th Ratchet and Clank. I just don't. It looks cool. It's pretty. It's cartoony and will play super fast. But at the same time, yeah.
I mean, it's Ratchet and Clank. It's Jack and Dexter. It's Crash Bandicoot. To me, those games are all kind of the same. Yeah, it's not really doing a whole lot for me either.
And then it's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Okay, that's a PS4 game. It's DLC. I don't care how long they claim it's PS5. No, it's gotten upgrades patched for PS5, but it's not a true next gen game, and it's not a full game. It's DLC. So
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you're gonna talk crap about Xbox not having something, make sure you got something because right now they're in the same boat, really. I mean, I think Xbox's boat's even a little bit stronger, but
oh yeah, I think
neither one of them are dropping 10 brand new next gen games day one, not even
no,
close.
Microsoft has a way lot more games because everything will still play on the Xbox One.
That's just killer, man. I mean, on the
Yeah.
Sony side, you got to sit there and try to explain. I mean, just try to imagine being like somebody that works at GameStop or at Best Buy or something, trying to explain to him, well, this thing will work, this thing won't, this will, that won't, this and that. And then with the Xbox, you're like, oh yeah, it'll all work. Your
Yeah.
controllers will work, your games will work. Just it's a 5-second conversation. On the Sony side, you got to get a manual out basically and a list to try to explain this stuff to people. But we know what Sony's good at if they're good at anything though, and that's copying off of other people. So I'm sure
Oh yeah.
they'll have Sony Game Pass and this and that within the next couple of years. They've never been real big on original thought, I don't think, on that side.
Well, hopefully the GameStops and Best Buys and places will stop being pro Sony and just be pro electronics or pro gaming systems, because those places really shit on the Xbox One. You could go in, and if anybody asked, what should I get, they were always told to get a PlayStation or PlayStation games.
Right. Yeah. The one I go to a lot, they have signs up for the One X or the Series X and the PS5, but they got the Series X sign almost on the floor. We can barely see it, and then the PS5 sign is up at eye level with balloons all the way around it. I was like, what
Yeah.
the heck? Which is really ironic too, because Sony is kind of like giving the middle finger to GameStop. They don't let GameStop sell any digital games for Sony. They don't let them sell anything other than just the preloaded gift cards. When you can go into GameStop for Xbox and you can buy any game pretty much digitally, get the code right there, which I mean, I don't know why people buy digital codes at a physical store, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, and then you can also get any dollar amount from like $1 to $1,000,000, a specific dollar amount printed off on a code on your receipt. So they're way more friendly to physical brick and mortar stores than what Sony is. But like you said, though, their staff doesn't seem to echo that that
No.
appreciation, though.
Well, for whatever reason, from the top down at GameStop, they've always thought Xbox was out to get them.
Yeah, and it's turned out to be the opposite. It looks like
Their own business practices is what screwed them up, but they want to blame it on Xbox.
yeah, and they I mean, it's kind of I'm surprised to see them actually selling like Game Pass cards in store now, because that could be the death knell to GameStop someday. But they'll either adapt or they'll go extinct. I guess we'll see.
Well, hopefully they'll adapt, but I just think I'm hoping they somehow make it. I like buying my consoles there, but I don't ever buy any games there, and I don't ever sell them anything. I don't trade stuff in.
Well, take my advice, man. Like I said, that GameStop kind of doesn't give you a lot for some stuff, but there's some stuff if you work the system just right, you can actually come out ahead there trading stuff in.
Yeah, I've heard about people doing stuff like that. And I traded my 1S in on my X because I had a white one. I didn't like it. I wanted that military green one. It had the OD green.
Yeah.
I never ended up getting an OD green one. I haven't been able to find one, but if I come across one, I'm gonna pick it up used.
Hey, I'll send you a picture when we wrap this up. But actually, it's kind of ironic. I have it's the Battlefield 1 console, right?
Yeah.
I have that one that I bought at the PX when I was in Africa, and it has a slip cover that goes over the whole box, and it had the top right corner is an American flag, and it says Military Appreciation Edition on it. It's really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's something that I think will be pretty rare in the future because I've never seen anybody else have it. So I picked that up just to have the box, and I ended up, that's the console I use in my bedroom pretty much like as a Netflix machine. But yeah, the box is super cool though.
Yeah, I just use the 1S or the OG one just for uh, DVDs and Blu-rays in the living room. I don't game on it too much.
Yeah, kind of same thing. So every now and then I might play a game on it, because I'm laying in bed or something, but it's pretty rare. It's a nice 4K Blu-ray player though, the 1S.
Yeah. Well, it's the same one for the 1X.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just at a way cheaper price point.
Yeah, it was. I used the 1S for a year basically, just as a Blu-ray player, and well, I gamed on it too because it was better than my OG Xbox One. But to be honest, I knew the X was coming, and that's what I was getting to be my primary game machine. But I still bought that S just because I wanted a Blu-ray player. And
It's funny that it seems like the
4K,
1X was almost like a Trojan horse now, just to get us console people like kind of on that. Wow, I want to have some good performance thing, because there used to be like the rift between PC and console people, and we didn't really care that much about cutting edge graphics. But now, like we got a little taste with the 1X, and now we just want
oh
to
no, I've
hoard.
always cared about it. I've always liked having whatever was the best console. I just didn't care about PC, but back in the day, I drilled at wanting the Neo Geo, which I never could get. But
Yeah, I definitely never had the Neo Geo, Sega Saturn, Atari Jaguar, like any of those
I had a
crazy price
Saturn.
consoles.
I had a Sega CD and a Saturn, and actually didn't buy the Dreamcast initially, but I picked one up about the time it was dying because I got like 20 something games with it for almost nothing. But,
Yeah, who knew at the time that the Dreamcast was pretty much like the prequel to the Xbox? That kind of set the stage, having the online right out of the box, and it was pretty neat.
yeah. Hopefully, with the Series X, they're just going to continue that kind of heritage.
I wonder what they will do with this whole mid-generation upgrade thing, or will even have generations anymore. Part of me kind of wonders if, since this all access thing is a 2-year plan, if that's kind of every 2 years they're going to have something new for us to buy.
I don't think Microsoft's going to have a mid-gen console. I think their mid-gen upgrade is just going to be VR, but that's a guess. I may be totally wrong on that, because I know PlayStation's going to have a mid-gen upgrade because they don't like having the weaker console. It's killing them, or at least it's killing their fan base. Sony may not care that it's weaker.
I tell you what, it's produced some butt hurt, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's insane, and people still deny it. No, PlayStation's more powerful. No, it's not. Get over it. Come on, we all know. But some of them just,
I remember the Sony fans laughing at us about the the cloud-based computing and this and that, and how it was going to make it more powerful, but now they think that somehow their hard drive is gonna make their game console more powerful. That's even more laughable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it does help with load time, so there's always that. And then the Xbox has one too, so the Sony was just a fraction faster, but it's not overly important as far as the overall power of the machine.
But, yeah, I mean, if somebody was talking to you straight up, it's hard to imagine anybody would take 2 seconds faster loading time over having twice the frame rate. I mean, that's ridiculous to even say that out loud. It just sounds stupid.
Yeah, even that S is going to have those great frame rates. That's amazing.
I know.
They're going to sell so many of those this Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with that all access thing, I think they'll sell every single one that they put in
Oh,
stores.
yeah, and I think they've been pumping them out from their factories. I think Sony had some parts that they had, even though they had the had it. PlayStation 5 was way ahead as far as like the dev kit and stuff, but for manufacturing purposes, there was some parts that were too expensive, and there was some parts that were pretty scarce that the PlayStation was using. So, as far as the number that they're being able to pump out, I don't think it's going to be near as many as what Xbox is going to have out at launch.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any truth to the whole rumor that it's only going to be like a North American, European launch on day one for Sony as well, and other markets have to wait.
Could be. I mean, they initially said they were only going to produce 6 million between November and March, and then they changed that and said 10 million. But the initial is looking not good now, so I don't know what's going on.
Just imagine, like, living in Japan and Sony being a Japanese company, and then finding out you can't buy the console in your own country day one. I mean, just imagine that on the flip side. Imagine if Microsoft said we're not going to have the Xbox in the U.S. on day one. That would not go over well.
No, not at all. But everybody worries about Japanese sales. They've never bought a lot of consoles. I'm sorry, it's a small market in comparison to other places. It really is. Now, the big deal about Japan is they produce a lot of great games, and those games wouldn't get into Xbox. But as far as how many Xboxes are sold in Japan, I, I see why Microsoft mostly didn't care, because it had no effect on their game sales, other than we as gamers, our Xbox people, we missed out on a lot of good games. But the OG Xbox had enough, the 360 had enough. It was when they got to the Xbox One, because games take so long to produce now, and Xbox didn't have but a few studios, so they didn't have very many first party games that were being made, and they were buying exclusives. Was how they did it in the 360 era. They just couldn't do that anymore. The few games they did buy, it finally bit them in the ass because they flopped. There were some good games, actually, but Rise did not sell well. You know, the thing from Remedy didn't sell. Quantum Break.
Yeah, that's too bad too, because that was a good game.
Yeah, and the game that the ones that made Spider-Man for Sony that owns now, that one they made for Microsoft, it didn't sell. So those games that they bought, it killed them. So then they had 2 or 3 games that just didn't get made. They shit canned them. So all of a sudden we had that hole where we wasn't enough games. But Phil managed to bring stuff in. He got stuff like PUBG and Cuphead, and we did okay. It was a struggle, but they did okay. They kept us something to play. But I'll stack that Xbox games up against everybody. Oh, Sony has better games. No, I don't think so.
Not for me,
I'll
they don't.
stack up Gears of War against anything Sony's ever put out, period.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I mean, we're not that far removed from Halo being the biggest
Yeah.
game franchise on the planet, and it's still huge. But it doesn't get that 96 Metacritic score anymore, so people kind of don't care about it apparently.
Yeah, they still made a ton of money off Halo 5, so all the crying about it. Well, it had a horrible story, and yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't like the story in it either, the campaign, but it still made them a crap ton of money. So
I thought the campaign was definitely different, but I just finished it up a second playthrough the other day, and man, when Cortana, freezes Master Chief there at that Cryptum, that was crazy, man. That was a good gaming moment, I think. So it wasn't all bad, and the multiplayer is like flawless too. I love it. I can't wait to see how they build on that with Infinite.
Yeah, Infinite will be fine. The only thing that worries me is this is the first time they've tried a more open world approach, and you've not worked on a lot of open world games or did open world games. Sometimes the programming's not the same,
No,
and
definitely
maybe
not.
that's why they now it's all in delay and stuff, and why they've had a lot of problems.
I wonder, had there not been all that backlash about the graphics on that trailer, I wonder what would have happened. Would they have released it in November still, or was it kind of destined to be delayed already before that happened? And that was just a good time to do it.
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't think they would have released it in a bad state, but at the same time, it may not be in as bad a state as people think. I mean, they had till November, so they probably could have got the graphics better, but it's not going to look as good as Halo 5 or 4 because it's an open world game,
Right.
and those tend to just not graphically look as good. I mean,
It's it's just not
although
practical.
with
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption almost changes that thing, but let's put it this way: the majority of big open world games graphically don't look as good as a smaller linear, you know, game like say Gears of War or any of
Well, I
the
mean, you have a finite amount of assets, no matter how powerful your console is, and you got to pick and choose what you're going to do. So yeah, that's a given. I mean, that's why some games, they just narrow corridor shooters. They look so good because there's just
yeah.
not a lot going on. Or like, Forza, like a racing game. There's almost nothing going on outside of the car models and the tracks. So those are always cutting edge. And I think like Tiger Woods used to always be one of the best looking games. I mean, because why? I mean, you don't got anything going on, but your guy swinging his golf club. Those were some of the first games that I thought looked almost like photorealistic.
Yeah, apparently the PGA game this year is supposed to be really great. Looks
Yeah,
amazing.
I've heard that. I was a little bit disappointed when I found out that it was just the golf club with a new publisher because I never really liked that game. But I've heard though that people are liking it, so I might have to check it out.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I've been hearing people really like it.
I loved Tiger Woods back in the day. That was one of the games I played a ton. From probably like 2003 up to maybe like 2012, around that time period. I always had Tiger Woods. Always had the newest one every year.
About the time they went to those is when I stopped playing golf games, but on the 16-bit and 32-bit systems, I had some golf games, and the one on the Neo Geo I always liked for some reason. I don't
I
remember what
never
it's called, but
I never played any golf games back in the day. Well, that's not true. I played Mario Golf, if that even counts. I don't know if you can count that as a golf game. I guess you kind of do.
yeah, no, they had some pretty good ones back in the day. They didn't need much to make them. Because, like you said, they not much to them. So graphically, even on the 16-bit and systems, they looked really good. Speaking of which, I've got like a Neo Geo MVS that's consoleized, but recently I just ordered another one. But this one's more than just an MVS system. It's actually a super gun, so I can hook arcade boards up to it, and then that'll hook
Oh, wow, that's
to
cool.
the TV. Of course, the problem is I can't afford arcade cards to hook to it, but
Yeah, Neo Geo's got to be one of the most expensive consoles to
well,
collect
it's not.
for
This
sure.
thing's not just for Neo Geo. You can get MVS games pretty cheap, and you can get the 160 1-in-1 cartridges that have 50, 60 games on them, and they even have a version of a. It's expensive, but they have a version of the of a basically of a Never Drive that Darksoft makes, and actually some other company makes one too. Uh, they'll let you load all Neo Geo games onto it and play them, but that thing's about $350. So I haven't bought one of those, but I have an AES and I have a consoleized MVS, and I have the 160 1-in-1 cartridge for each of them. But I also have like multiple Neo Geo discs for various systems, and you know, that's full of Neo Geo games. I mean, even on my Xbox One, I probably have between 20 and 30 Neo Geo ACA Neo Geo games. I just can't help myself. I'm like a Neo Geo junkie. But this thing I ordered is a super gun, so it'll play like all the Capcom arcade boards, CPS 1, 2, and 3 boards, all the great Namco and Konami arcade cards all hooked to it. Anything that uses JAMA.
So these are the legit boards like you'd pull out of a 90s arcade. You just plug them right in and play them?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
that's
actually just plug the board in, and it
huh.
powers the board just like it would inside of an arcade machine. But then it's
Wow.
got the outputs that'll go to your television. You can run it to a high def TV. Although I run it to tube TVs. I've got multiple CRTs in the house that I use for these retro systems. So when this thing, it's not here yet, but when the Super Gun shows up, but eventually, hopefully, I can find a few arcade boards that are reasonably priced. I mean, some go for thousands. Some
Yeah.
go for $40-50. It's a crappy game, but it just depends on what you're trying to buy and when you're buying it.
Yeah, arcades are hot again right now. Last few years, all these barcades and stuff are opening up, so they're worth money again, which is fortunate and unfortunate, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I'd like to find one that was going out of business. So, and like, instead of buying their whole friggin' cab and all that, just buy the boards.
Yeah, that would be
But
cool.
I like the shumps, so I'm only looking for shump boards for and most of the better shumps were all ported to the PS1, 2, and Sega Saturn and Dreamcast, so, and even some to tons to the Genesis and Super Nintendo. So I've got most of those games anyway, or ways to play them.
I got a MAME cabinet that I had somebody build for me. That's kind of how I do all my my arcade gaming, I guess, just for the sake of space.
Now, do you use just MAME with it, or do you have that one where like it's like the wheels and you can pick every different system, and then the wheel comes up and then you run through the games? I forget what it's called, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the PC that the guy hooked up to it, it has MAME on it, and then it also has this other thing you're talking about, and it has Atari all the way through. I think like Nintendo 64 on it and Neo
Because I
Geo
don't
and
have
everything,
much
but I don't
MAME.
really go into that
I've got
folder
like
much.
an OG Xbox that's modded, and it's got thousands of MAME games and thousands of emulated games from other systems, and I don't like none of them. I just don't like the way they look or how they play. But all the Xbox games look and play perfect, and all because they're the real games that were for that system, and yeah, it's just different.
Yeah, the MAME front end on my cabinet, it pretty much plays perfect. I can't say if it looks perfect because I just haven't played these games enough recently to know, but there's no lag or jitteriness or anything, man. Like you play Donkey Kong or Pac-Man or anything up to like Aero Fighters or Mortal Kombat Ultimate, anything like that. It plays perfect. The only problem I have sometimes is going in and having to remap the buttons so that they're right from how I remember them
Yeah,
being at the arcades. That takes a little bit of time, but
because
other than that, it's great though.
on top of that Xbox, I mean, I've got the Wii. It's got all those emulators on it too, and it's pretty good, But mainly, I just use it for Wii and GameCube games, and uh, I prefer the EverDrives to play all the Super Nintendo and Genesis games. And I try not to even use my original equipment. I got a couple of crappy clone systems. It's got like a Super Nintendo slot, an NES slot, and a Genesis slot. And then I use my EverDrive cartridges in those hooked to a TV, and they play great and work fine.
Yeah, some of those clone consoles are pretty good. I messed up and got a Retron 5, and that thing was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And it's the most expensive one, I think, too, out of all those, those fake consoles, whatever you want to call them, but definitely not the best.
Yeah,
It's
these
because
little
it
clones I
doesn't have
bought
any real hardware in it. That's why,
cheap,
though.
but they play the actual cartridges, so it's fine. And um, now they got those the Sega and Super Nintendo, both the FPGA ones. The what's that company's name? I can't think. They
AVS, like the
no,
retro AVS, is that what it was called?
no. This is different. It's oh my, they're like the highest quality ones, and they're like $180 each.
Oh, the Analog NT.
Analog NT and the Analog
Yeah,
SP, yeah. But I've never
yeah,
bought those because I'm like, these little clones I got work great. And if I buy an Analog NT, I'm just using, I'm gonna be doing the same thing. I'm gonna be slapping my uh, EverDrive cartridge in there. So I was like, do I want to spend $180? Do I want to spend $40 on this little clone thing I got? So yeah, I'd like to get those analog ones though at some point. Luckily, they're still selling them. But now they got that FPGA, whatever, that plays all systems, and you just buy a module and pop into it.
yeah. You just get the different cores for it. That's
Yeah,
really neat.
they got 2 or 3 different versions of that companies sell, but that gets pretty pricey once you start getting buying enough of them. So I've just backed off on those because I have so many other ways to play all these games. I don't really need, you know what I'm saying? I don't need 10 different ways to play a Super Nintendo game. I just need one way.
Right. You think we'll ever see an Xbox Classic? Like the Super Nintendo Classic or whatever, a little console with games preloaded on it.
I wouldn't be shocked. They need to because everybody has a soft modded OG Xbox that's got tons of games on it. So why not?
Right.
They can
I
make
would
some
I would
money
want
off
one
of it.
just to set on my shelf and look at. I think I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd ever hook it up,
Oh,
but
I
it'd be
know. Listen, I'm hooked on those minis. I have all of them. I have the NES, the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis one. I even got an arcade one that's a little mini thing that's got just arcade games on it. And I bought it specifically to put into an arcade one up. I got the Street Fighter arcade one up, and then I was going to buy a second one that uses a maybe one with a vertical monitor. Or I don't know, that plays similar games, but you can put that arcade mini thing I've got in it. See, and it's hacked with not hundreds, thousands of games. But yeah, and I've got 2 of the Neo Geo ones that look like little mini consoles. I got a couple of those, and I got the Neo Geo one that's the big, looks like a big joystick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fight stick or whatever is what it looks like. Or, but yeah, anyway, I just love those things.
They are cool. I don't have a crazy amount of them like that. I just have the Super Nintendo and the NES one, but I just like how they look. They did a real good
Yeah,
job with the period, appropriate kind of branding on the boxes. I think it's neat.
yeah. I even bought the PC Engine one. I couldn't get the TurboGrafx 16 one. They, I was in the hospital when that dropped, and I didn't get it ordered. I had it pre-ordered, and then I canceled it for some. I don't even remember why. I think what it was, I'd ordered something else, and I was afraid that the money wasn't going to be there, so I canceled it. Then I was just going to reorder it, and then I ended up in the hospital. And the time I got out, they were sold out. Couldn't
Man,
get it. So, but I was able to get one through uh, Japan. So, yeah, I didn't pay much extra for it, so it wasn't no big deal. And I think the PC Engine version looks better anyway. And I have a real PC Engine, although I've got the big one that's got the CD built in with it, and not the TurboGrafx version, but the PC Engine version of that. But and it'll play all those CD games, but I don't need the actual play burn CD games in it because I've got the EverDrive card, so all those CD games are on the card. So I just use it. That way I'm not killing that laser in it.
That's a good call. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 Sega Saturns. And I need to get one of those upgraded so I'm not playing burned CDs or any CDs in it, which I haven't done yet. But they have that available where you can hook a hard drive to it. But anyway, let's get back to Xbox.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's hit a
This
couple
is
more
an
points.
Xbox show, and we're talking like
we're rambling a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's more on my Saturday night show, talking stuff like that.
I mean, what have we not covered yet? I guess we got the release date, we got the pre-order date, we got the kind of the new news about some of the third-party games and how they're going to perform. The Xbox All Access, kind of a subscription pay-as-you-go plan.
Yeah, we've hit all the big news.
Yeah. They did the pilot program for that all access thing the last couple of years where they only kind of offered it at the Microsoft stores. But with the going forward, they're going to sell it. Looks like pretty much everywhere. GameStop's going to be offering it. And the way I understand it, you just kind of go in and they run your background real quick. And if you get approved, then you just take the console and out the door you go. Like no money out of your pocket up front.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you're not paying any interest. It's a great deal.
Yeah. And you get the 2 years of Game Pass Ultimate, which is crazy. That's $250 worth of Game Pass. That's half the price of the console.
Yeah, it's a great deal. I just don't want to make a payment each month. I just don't like having to be worrying about another bill. Although I guess you can put it for like an automatic payment coming out of
Yeah, I'm not going to go that route myself. It's like I said, it's just great for people that want to or need to go that route. It's like how many people would buy a new cell phone every year or two if they had to pay $1,000 up front, but the cell phone companies have figured out how to keep the newest technology kind of in your house and in your pocket for an affordable price. And then that's what looks like Microsoft's going to do with gaming going forward. And I think it's kind of the future to how to do it.
Yeah, as long as they truly have enough places that do it. And right now it seems like they do. Walmart, Target, GameStop, Microsoft Store, all are offering it. Now overseas, it's in a lot more countries now, but a lot of times over there, it's just maybe one place that sells games that are doing it. Because I looked on that list and it'd say the country and then it would list the name of the store that are offering it.
Oh, I hadn't even actually seen that list. Yeah, that's interesting too, though. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the podcast on Friday afternoons with Mads, and he's super happy they're offering that in Poland.
Yeah.
And he's looking forward to getting the next that way. That way he don't have to pay for it and a PS5 at the same time. Because that's somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500 for the 2 consoles and a handful of games. Although you don't need to buy a handful of games with the Xbox, but with the PlayStation you do. So it's going to be $500 at minimum. I guarantee it. The one with the disc drive, and if you buy 2 or 3 games, yeah, it's
hard to imagine that the PS5 is going to be anything other than $500 because I don't know how they could sell it for less, and I don't know how they could afford to sell it for more, really either. I mean, we've seen how that was the biggest reason.
I don't think they're going to do a 400. I think it's going to be 450 for the discless one. Because that Blu-ray drive is like $15, and they're not even paying that. They're not even paying that much because they're buying 100 million of them. Yeah. So whatever manufacturer they get those Blu-ray drives from, which in Sony's case, they probably make their own Blu-ray drives. Yeah, they probably only $8-9 a drive, so they're not knocking $100 off. They just can't afford to lose that much money on. If they sell 10 million of them and you lose $100 times 10 million, that's a lot of money for them. And it's not, we'll make it back in game sales. They depend on that. Their console they need to sell that many.
I've been seeing for years people saying like, "Oh, it doesn't make any difference how much money Microsoft has. It doesn't go to their gaming division." But like you said, though, in a way, it kind of does. I mean, they can afford to invest in things and eat losses more than a company whose like bulk of their revenue comes from gaming.
Even Microsoft, don't forget, refused to lose a single penny on the Xbox One S or One X. Okay, they sold those at full price. They didn't care. I mean, they after that 500 fiasco with the original Xbox One, they built a great console. It's worth every penny, but they still sold the One X at $500. They wasn't going to lose any money, and they're not. I'm telling you right now, they're not losing money on the Series X. I've heard people already say, "Well, they must be losing money on that Series X." No, I don't think they are. They might not be making money on it, but they're not losing any.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the breakdown of the costs and everything, but you're probably onto something there. They've squeezed. When you saw that he was talking about saving 75 cents per console or whatever on taking the optical audio port out, you can tell
Yeah.
they've really put some thought into the analysis of the cost of everything on this. They've definitely done their homework.
The only thing that thing was used for, anyways, people with certain models of headphones used it.
Yeah, and it doesn't even support like Dolby Atmos. You got to have HDMI for that anyway, so it's kind of a dying technology. And there was less than 1% of people were using the HDMI in port. It was
Yeah,
cool enough. I used it when I first got the console just to kind of check it out, but I never really used it either.
yeah, I used it for a little bit. I had a PS4 plugged into it.
Yeah.
Even that, I just for whatever reason, I just stopped using it.
Yeah, that was something nobody cared about until they were going to take it away, and they're like, "Oh no!" If you cared about it, you should have supported it while it was out. It's the same thing with the Kinect. There were some people that were upset that they got rid of support for the Kinect, but you know what? You didn't support it while it was out, so what are they going to do?
Yeah,
Make
I
products
mean, I've
for
used my Kinect,
1%
but I
of
never
people?
bought games for it. And I think Microsoft always expected the Kinect to sell games. I just thought the Kinect was a great camera because they made their USB, except they did a software upgrade so you can use any camera with it through a USB port. But I thought it was cool. They had their own, and it has a microphone built in. But I didn't need it for games, and I've never bought a single Kinect game for either the 360 or the Xbox One. But I've used the crap out of my Kinect. I mean, I use it every day. It's on right now. Although I don't really need it, but I have it and I like it. And I hate the fact that it's not going to be supported on the next one. Although I'm going to try when I get that one. I mean, I've got the little adapter thing, but I don't know if it'll.
Yeah, they kind of said that it's not going to. I think they said that was the only games that wouldn't work, and so I assume that means there's just not going to be any firmware to support it
Yeah,
at all, which is
well, I'm
too
not worried
bad.
about games again. I don't play any games on the Kinect, but maybe the camera will still work with Skype. I'm hoping because I like making those Skype calls on that. I mean, I'd still be able to use Skype on the Xbox. I just have to use a different HD camera, but I just thought it was cool using the Kinect camera for it because and it picks up. The microphone is so good. I'll be talking to him in Germany, and I'm seeing him in his apartment, crystal clear. And I see my little thing in the corner, but I can get up and walk over into the kitchen, and the camera follows me. By the way, he still sees me, and the microphone picks me up, and I just talk in a normal voice, and he still hears me. Most mics, you get out of their little cone range, they don't pick you up. That thing in that Kinect, man, it's amazing.
It's exceptional for sure. I mean, it was kind of ahead of its time. I
With
just
old tech now, I'm thinking they could really do a Kinect. It would be just amazing, but they're never going to go back down that rabbit hole.
I wish they had just sold a bundle with and a bundle without day one. I think
Yeah,
history would have been totally different had they done that.
yeah, we might have VR if they had done that. So
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But that was kind of that's why Phil Spencer exists now, though, to steer us away from bonehead moves like that. I think he's done a great job of being in touch with what people want and how to message things appropriately.
Yeah. Still, something slips through the crack, and then people cry. The whole Halo fiasco, and I am shocked that I thought it looked fine, but I'm not like a Halo fanatic. So when I watched that day, I thought everything looked great. I didn't see anything wrong with it until people started bringing out all the problems with it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I am a Halo fanatic, and I thought it looked great. This story. I mean, it looked so classic Halo. The new weapons looked amazing, and just the fact that
Still had
you get to be
3
Master Chief
months to
the
get
whole
the
game again.
graphics tightened up. So I just, yeah, 3 months before a game comes out, they still work until about 2 weeks before the game drops till it goes gold. So they have plenty of time to keep tweaking it and making it look better and up in the res and all that, or adding better textures.
Well, they even said that wasn't even a recent build either. It was just one that was stable enough to play. They had builds of the game that already looked better than that. Just when everybody's working remotely and you're trying to piece together a demo to show people, I mean, you got to sacrifice some things here and there. And I don't know. Like I said at the beginning of the show, though, I'm patient. When it comes out, it'll be awesome, and
Oh yeah,
I'll play some other
Halo will be
things.
fine. It's still their main franchise, and they're going to do whatever they need to do to make it right. And I don't think it'll be, well, it could be the end of next year, but I think it'll be out by the summer.
I've seen some stuff from marketing partners and whatnot that's kind of got me thinking it's going to be a February release, a February 2021 release. That's just totally my own speculation, I guess. But if I had to throw some money down on the roulette wheel for a release date, I think that's what I'd go with, is February. But we shall see, though.
Yeah. This depends on how much tweaking that new guy they put in charge that used to be, at Bungie. Joseph Staten, who's now like in charge of the campaign. They put somebody else in charge of the multiplayer, so he's just doing the campaign. Now, I don't think he's going to do a whole lot. He's not going. The story's already done, so they're not going to redo the whole game.
No, definitely not.
I think he'll just kind of oversee them upgrading the graphics and the textures and things like that, and it'll be fine. He might tweak the story a little because he's written, he wrote the first 3 games, or at least the first 2, and worked on the 3rd one. And
you ever think back to, had Microsoft and Bungie not broke up and Destiny was just a open world online Halo, how amazing that would have been?
Yeah, but I don't know. Things happen for a reason, so I don't know what happened. I mean, I get more upset about Gears of War, where they split that company up and all those guys left. And the last 2 games have not been as good. They've been okay. They play really great, but they kind of miss the soul that 1, 2, and 3 had. And maybe it's because it's his son and that Kate. I don't care for the characters in Halo 4 and 5. I just don't. And it's like, how are you gonna make a Gears of War game without Marcus Phoenix being the main star? You're never ever gonna see Sony make a God of War game that Kratos isn't the star. They're just not. All them people that act like, oh, they're gonna let his son be the star. No, Kratos will always be. He's the God of War. Nobody else. Gears of War should have. I mean, they had him in it, but he was no longer the star of the game, and it was like, really. That's just stupid. Come on.
Well, it drove me crazy not playing as Master Chief in Halo 5.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really want to go there. How are you going to make a Halo game without Master Chief being the main star? And
well, I mean, that's, if it's going to be a spinoff like Halo Reach was, that's fine. But this was called Halo 5. It needed to.
Yeah, it was a mainline game, and I don't mind a side game or spinoff or whatever being different. But yeah, they. But now Phil's in charge. Although he was actually over those studios back then. He was the yeah. But he wasn't running things. I mean, he's had multiple other bosses that ran Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of promoted him up the chain for a reason.
He's done a great job. It's just both with the original 1S, 1X, and now the two his babies, the Series X and Series S. But even those other consoles, I mean, the 1X was a love letter to gamers, and it's been amazing.
So, how are you on space for the Series X? I know a lot of people said their home entertainment stands or whatever aren't really conducive to the size.
I've got these square things. It's a cube thing, but it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 8 of them, and I've got it laying on its side with my 55-inch TV on top of it. But I think each of those cubes are they're tall enough so I can set the Series X in it.
Yeah, I hung my TV at I think what should be pretty close to the perfect height to slide it right underneath it on this little stand that I got underneath the TV, so it should be good. And then it's supposed to be they're saying it's going to be a really quiet console too, which that's another thing.
I was going to say I've got
exciting.
enough room on the right or left side of the TV too that I could stand it upright and have it there on top of the stand with the TV, but it'll fit exactly where my Xbox One, I can set it vertical or horizontal. I'll be able to do the vertical with the Xbox Series X. Now, the PS5 will not fit. I can guarantee you that fucker's too tall for my cubes. Yeah, and these cubes, the stands. They're made like stands. So you can buy an individual one. It's got like 4 cubes, and that's what I set my tube TVs on. And they're sturdy enough to hold, pretty hefty old CRTs.
I got one of those Xbox Ready CRTs. I don't know if you remember those, but they came out when the original Xbox came out, and they had the V port in the back of them. So it kind of was like a
Nice.
2-ended AV cable that hooked straight from the Xbox into it. And I kind of just have it because it's kind of cool just to have a TV that says Xbox on the front of it.
A bit. I would. Yeah, I'd like to have that.
It's a big beast, though. My God, I think
Yeah, all mine are.
It's got to be close to 200 pounds, I would imagine.
I've got a 26-inch Sonys, a 32-inch Philips, which is my favorite one. It's got picture perfect. It's amazing for a CRT. And then I've got a 36-inch Sony that I'm gonna get rid of. It's a beast, but yeah, it's got to go. I can't. I'm not gonna. When we move, I'm not gonna take it with me.
I used to have a Trinitron, which was awesome for retro games, but I got rid of that when I found that Xbox one. It's not quite as good of a TV, but it's just the historical significance of it kind of warmed me out.
Yeah, I've got like 3 Sonys, and I'm gonna get rid of 2 of them. One of the 26-inch ones is gonna go, and I'm gonna keep. It's weird. I'm keeping the one that's not as good because I just like the way it looks. It's black. And I don't know. I just like it better than. It's not even a flat screen one. It's got a slight curve to it. One of the 26 inches flat and the 36-inch Trinitron's flat screen. And I'm getting rid of both of those. It's weird, but the curved one, the Sony, and the Philips ones has a slightly curved screen. I just like better than those flat Sony ones. So yeah, I'm gonna keep just 2. And then hook up, half my retro gaming systems to one, the other half to the other one. That's why I like those minis. I hook those minis up to my 4K set. I don't mind them using HDMI and hooking them that way, but I like my original consoles hooked to CRT.
Yeah, I mean it's a must, man. Especially if you want to play light gun games and stuff too.
Yeah.
Hyperkin was making a light gun that works on LED TVs, and I demoed it at E3 last year, and it did not work at all. The woman was telling me that I was missing the ducks or whatever, and I was like, no, I've played duck hunt all my life. I'm not missing the ducks.
Yeah, I seen one online that came out, and I tried ordering it. It was some light gun that worked with regular televisions, and I never got sent one. I never did even check my card to see if they'd ever charged me. I don't think they did, but yeah, I never got that. It was some weird brand.
But I actually told the lady, I said, well, if it's really it's user error or whatever, come out here and show me. Like you show me how it works. So she came out there, and she missed all the ducks too, and she's like, I think we need to shut this down for a minute and recalibrate it. And I was like,
Those PS3 dildo sticks they used to joke that work with the PSVR, those actually work as a light gun on several PS3 light gun games, and those work great on a high def television.
I had when I had my PS3, I had Time Crisis, and I don't know if you remember that, but there was this little like sensor strip you had to put above your TV, and it worked. I still don't think that worked as good as even the NES Zapper did, though. That thing worked.
The last Time Crisis game works with those PlayStation Move things.
Really?
Just That's the last one. I don't think the earlier ones did, but the last one does.
And they bundled one of those games with the Move controller, didn't they?
Probably.
It came with the little assault rifle shaped thing to put it inside of.
Yeah, it looks silly with the ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they work pretty well, and the Wiimote actually worked pretty good for some light gun top games.
I never did really play much on the Wii other than Mario and Wii Sports and stuff. I didn't dive too deep into that console.
I didn't either much, but my youngest at the time kind of took over the Wii, and here's the key to the Wii. It needs to be hooked up to a CRT, not to a high def television. And all those Wii games look amazing on a CRT. They were not high def. They didn't go high def until they got the Wii U. But those Wii games, I mean, yeah, you could put 720p out, and they had an adapter to let it be HDMI, but they didn't look good on a high def television. Those games all look great on a CRT, though, and they had plenty of good. Once you get past all of the garbage ware games that were out on the Wii, there's actually a lot of really, really good games. It had a decent library.
It's just a huge library. That's for sure.
Yeah, it had so many garbage games though, because they were selling so many of them. It's like everybody was trying to get their game on the Wii. It's kind of like it is now the Switch. I mean, the Switch is starting to get a ton of garbage games.
Yeah, they'll literally release anything, a physical copy on the Switch, anything.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of that way for the PS4 until the Switch came out, and the Switch kind of became that darling of, hey, that's the system we want our game on. By then, both Xbox and PlayStation had already peaked.
Yeah, people are so quick to forget their history. The Atari 2600 crashed because they put too much junk out on it.
Oh yeah, there was no quality control. That was Nintendo's big thing. They were like, we're not going to let everybody do that and crap up our system, and it was pretty smart. Although Atari, they was just idiots running that company, and it just it'd get taken away, or there'd be certain people that owned it would lose it, and then you think, well, good, this new people that got it, maybe, and then it'd be bigger idiots, like when the Trimals bought it, and yeah, then they made the 5200 Super System, which was, wow, you talk about garbage and a controller that was horrible.
Yeah,
the Super System was actually better than the one that came out after it, the 7800 or whatever it was. That was basically just a glorified 2600. But that 5200 actually had better graphics and all that, but they just didn't make the right kind of games for it. It had a horrible controller.
Yeah, and the whole ship had kind of started sinking before I think that even came out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is all kind of secondhand knowledge for me. It's a little bit before my time, but I've watched a lot of documentaries on it and everything. It just the whole thing was mismanaged from top to bottom for sure.
Yeah, and here's the thing: both Nintendo and Sega tried to let Atari slap their name on it. It could have been the Atari NES or the Atari whatever, but Atari was so mismanaged, and in some cases Atari said, no, we have our own console, we don't want yours. In other cases the company was like, oh shit, they're a dumpster fire, we're not letting them sell our system. But out of respect, especially Nintendo, they went to Atari. Hey, we're gonna come into the US with this console, you want to let it be Atari? And but then before they ever signed any deals, they realized that no, Atari was a definite dumpster fire. And that's about the last respect Nintendo ever showed for another gaming company.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yep, the whole Nintendo PlayStation thing didn't come to fruition. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, but Nintendo was right for not pairing up with them because Sony was going to make all the money. Nintendo realized pretty quick that, man, if they put all these games on CDs, we're not going to get but a little bit, and they're getting the lion's share. And they just realized, yeah, it wasn't going to benefit them enough. But the way they went about backstabbing Sony, it pissed them off to the point where, yeah.
Yeah, it created a monster. You know, the
Yeah.
PS1 and PS2. Holy cow, those are great consoles, man. It's the best consoles ever, right up there with the best ones ever, anyway.
Well, they had the most games. That's how Sony's always won each generation. People don't quite realize that. They just had more games. Everybody put their games out on the PS1. It wasn't more powerful. It did 3D better than the Saturn, but didn't do too good. 2D as good as the Saturn did, and they were very similar. And the N64 was more powerful, but Nintendo gutted it because even though it was supposedly 64-bit, it had a 32-bit data bus, so it was never more than a glorified 32-bit system. Even though they called it the N64, it wasn't really, and that's why. And it was saddled with cartridge, so the games they lost several great games because companies said, we don't want to put our game on a cartridge anymore. We want to go with CD. It makes more sense. And Nintendo just wasn't ready to go that route because they were so scared of piracy.
I was I think like 12 or 13 when the N64 came out, and it we had a lot of fun with some of the games, not like the wrestling games and GoldenEye for sure. But at that age group, though, it was kind of like if you wanted to see yourself as a serious gamer, you went to PlayStation.
Oh yeah,
It seemed like Nintendo was
PlayStation
like,
One just dominated from the day it hit the market. Sega was already totally screwed up because you can't have two different masters. Sega in Japan was doing one thing, Sega in the States was doing a completely different thing. And Sega Japan didn't have an iron fist on top of Sega of America. Like Nintendo is a Japanese company. It's Japanese controls everything Nintendo of America does. Nintendo of America is not really a real company. It's just they just do that so they don't have to pay as much tax and crap on getting those consoles into the country, and it just made more sense selling it with under Nintendo of America. But all real decisions were made by the Japanese company. But with Sega, they let Sega of America make a lot of decisions, and yeah, it just got a bit crazy.
yeah.
And everybody thinks like Sony of America, they don't make any real decisions. All of them are made by Sega Japan. And so if whoever's running the company, they were put in power by Sega Japan. Period. They don't just let anybody run. Not Sega. I'm talking about PlayStation, Sony of Japan. It's still a Japanese company. It's not. Trust me. If Death Move, Ryan, whatever, tries to do something crazy, at some point, Sega Japan would shut that crap down. He's got his masters he's got to serve, and it's just the way it is.
No,
But
yeah, you're right,
Sega
man.
Japan's smart enough
You
to
can see
let
it.
Sony of Japan smart enough to know that Sony of America knows what games sell and what does right for the American market. And they pretty much let that run that way. And that's why they had a Sony Europe and Sony Asia, whatever, in different markets. And now it's just one. So we'll see how that works. Because before, they did run those kind of independently. With Sega of Japan, of course, always pulling Sony of Japan. I keep saying Sega. Sony was pulling the strings, for everybody. But yeah, it's interesting now that it's just one. They really did. I guess they were in such trouble. They wasn't when they as much downsizing as they streamlined and got rid of. If there was one guy doing the job at one company that they really liked, then he does it everywhere now. You no longer have the same position, Sony of America, Sony of Europe, or Sony wherever. It's just one person doing it for all the markets.
Right.
So they got rid of a lot of people. It was a lot more bloody than people realized. They got rid of a lot when Ryan took over and they did that streamlining.
Well, man, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, it's that time, man. We've been
Yeah,
on
we've got
45
so far
minutes. So
off subject here. You got any final words? I guess.
just that everybody just needs to relax. If you're a big Sony fan, PlayStation's going to be fine. They're going to announce their console, whatever price it is, it'll sell great. It'll probably sell more over the life of the consoles than Xbox will. But here's the thing, both companies are doing great, and so is Nintendo, and gaming has never been in a better place.
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, it's a great time to be a gamer, and I'll let those guys worry about their bottom line. And I'm just going to keep playing games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Next week, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right. Talk to you then. And we are no longer live.
Oh.